Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Gundam equivalent of an 80s tracksuit, and probably the weirdest named mecha of all Gundam time, the GFreD. So there's a whole lot of things you could say about this particular high-grade Gundam model kit, but one for definite is, it is not like anything else. Over-the-top colors, crazy color separation, funny stretchy stickers, and a build like nothing, well, besides the GQuuuuuuX, which it is based heavily upon. This really is one of those kits that no matter what your opinion of the actual overall design is, it's just so unusual and just so crazy, it's definitely worth the build. Anyway, if you do want one of your own, this video right here wouldn't have been possible without those awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan, so the link is down there in the description. Now let's wind on back in time a little bit to the build. When it does come to a high-grade GQuuuuuuX kit, first off you've got some great box art on the outside of the box, but inside of the box there isn't really that much plastic, which can actually take you by surprise. There's quite a bit of building, a lot of nice part separation, but not a lot of plastic per se. However, the payoff is off the charts. When it comes to the runners in here, we've got 7 in total, not including the effect parts. The A runner is absolutely crazy when it does come to colors. We've got cyan, orange, green, another shade of green. And when you jump on over to the F runner, and I will mention when it comes to this kit, this is very heavily based on the GQuuuuuuX kit. So most of the runners in here are 2025 high-grade Gundam GQuuuuuuX, or high-grade GQuuuuuuX. The only one that actually separates it is runner F right here, which is a little bit of a color remix and parts remix, which makes this kit somewhat different physically, besides the colors, to the GQuuuuuuX kit. On here we've got red, purple, black, and white. So there is a whole lot of plastic going on in here, including green frame aspects, some white armor which looks white at first glance, but it's got a little bit of a purplish hue to it, and we do have some effect parts in here as well for the very interesting take on the beam sabers that we get. Again, similar to the GQuuuuuuX, different color. We get 2 sheets of stickers in here. That's the standard stickers, so these are your usual kind of stick-on stickers. There's a whole bunch for the eyes, and various little color detailed aspects on the GFreD. Now the second set of stickers are the marking stickers. These are the GQuuuuuuX style. Again, these are really stretchy, so they are easy to damage when removing from the sticker sheet, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. And these are for all the various little kind of lines and details, and they work really well. Jumping on into the build proper, and once again I'm starting from the ground up with the legs. This is the exact same build we would have seen with the GQuuuuuuX, besides a couple of little differences. The head is the only thing that makes it very different, and the colors, but otherwise it builds up like nothing else. It's almost like it's got a little bit of the MM Warrior kits. Parts build on top of parts, build on top of parts. We've got some cool aspects. There are a few stickers that do need to be included, but they are tastefully used. For example, the fuel tanks inside the legs, we've got a green sticker for on that. Works out quite well. And we do have some decal-y style stickers for all around the place, which are a little bit hard to work with. They stretch when you're taking them off the actual sticker sheet, which can bend them out of shape, so be careful. They adhere very well though, and they are easy to work with once off the actual sheet. Now again, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here. I do recommend having a little bit of a table vise or something similar while doing this, because it feels like you need 3 arms for attaching these on. One to hold it, one to hold the sticker, and one to actually lay it down. So I do recommend getting yourself a vise like this Display one right here, or you can stick a big blob of blue tack down and it does pretty much the same job. Next up then is the Gundam, super simple, just 5 parts in total, but we do have a nice little bit of an ab crunch mechanism. Again, simplicity and design married together perfectly. Builds together simple, easy, looks good. Moving on up to the torso now, and essentially exactly the same as the GQuuuuuuX, but I didn't do a build of that. We've got a 3-part neck which builds up very nicely. The torso has some parts attaching from the side. The shoulder joints are very nice. They're almost like a large kind of pivoting C-clip inside of another rotating aspect when they pop into the back armor. Then you layer on part after part after part. There are some stickers to stick on when you're actually working on the big collar section if you want to. They're not color correcting, they're just decals. But there are a couple of color correcting kind of stickers when it comes to the cockpit hatch, which you just pop on like so. They fit onto wide parts, they're pretty much cut to fit, so they're not hard to attach, and there is no outline, thankfully. A few more armor parts slap on. Very nicely designed, yet simple ab crunch joint, and then you pop it all together just like so. The arm designs on the, I almost said GQuuuuuuX, the GFreD, same pretty much besides some minor details, are very impressive. Tons of parts just to the tiny little units up on the shoulders. Again, stickers on here to give you the little green lines, but these are good stickers, adhere well. unique shoulder joint, which actually has two parts attached together, and then you just pretty much lock them together with a cylinder in between. More parts build up, just like what you're seeing right here. Single point bend at the elbow, which actually pays off quite well, locks into position with these nice colored cuffs. We've got a rotating, moving wrist joint, which is always nice. And when you have it all put together, finally, then it's the hands. And these are in cheesy orange, which is very unique. Thankfully, we do have holding and widespread, because you'll never get hands to match these. The GQuuuuuuX's wacky backpack is back, just this time in GFreD colors. I mean, it is 100% the same. It's just a little bit of a central unit, two big old thrusters, and some kind of bendy pipe aspects. They're not actually physically bendy, they're just molded in a bendy shape. Attach on it, it all affixes together like so, and pops onto the back. So no standard backpack adapter in this particular kit. Last up then in here is the head, and whoa, this is crazy. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but I do feel like the GQuuuuuuX and the GFreD are almost pro high grades. They're really a level above your standard high grade, especially when it comes to the detail in the head. We've got two head options in here. That is the standard GFreD head and then the opened up version. They both build up kind of the same, so I just built the one. Again, super detailed, tiny pieces attaching together, simple 2-point joint neck. We've got some stickers for on the face, which is a little bit of a letdown. You could just actually go in with a metallic green pen. It would make your life a whole lot happier in the end. Tiny, tiny little details built on and on and on. Then you build those funnel style ears, which are these nice bladed aspects. It all attaches together phenomenally. Again, you've got two versions to build. The other version is pretty much the same, just it's opened up and has a little bit of a parts differentiation. But I'm glad it's not choose one or the other. You actually get both included. From there on out, all that's left is the accessories, and again, the same awesome accessories we saw with the GQuuuuuuX color swapped. That absolutely phenomenally, beautifully color separated beam rifle, the off-the-wall take on the beam sabers, just 2 parts each, nice beam effects, and the shield, which looks like some kind of, I don't know, hockey goalie thing or something. I don't know anything about that sort of thing, but that's what it looks like to me. 3 parts, 4 parts, including the attachment point. Lastly, then we do have a little bit of a cockpit for the, I guess, core fighter-esque thing, which is the backpack, and then we're done. Again, this is a ridiculously unique build, and like nothing else out there besides the GQuuuuuuX, but if you've never built either or of these kits, I highly recommend that you do. So finally, once you've got it finished, this right here is what you get. Now, I will mention this is it, out of box built, nothing extra done, no panel lining or anything, just the parts and the stickers that came inside the box, and I have to say, I am very, very impressed, and at the same time, mildly terrified. So this right here might just be the wildest Gundam model kit I have ever seen. It's one half Gundam, it's second half Evangelion, and it's third half, and yeah, I said third half, 80s tracksuit pattern. It's over the top, it's crazy, it is definitely different and unique, and for that reason I definitely dig it. It's not really like anything at all, the color choices are like no other gunpla out there, the design is, well, identical to the GQuuuuuuX, but they are like nothing else. You can really get a good feel for the part separation on this particular kit, even compared to the GQuuuuuuX, because they've basically broken everything down a little bit more. The GQuuuuuuX was crazy enough already, but it was almost regular Gundam colors. This right here is, well, it's a completely different beast. So there it is side by side with the actual art of the GFreD itself, and as you can see, Bandai basically nailed it. If you use the included stickers, you've pretty much got 99% of the color separation. The only thing I can kind of see that you're missing is some of the color on the back of the hands. There is a little bit of that kind of cyan-y green color, and a little bit of white as well, but besides that, you've got pretty much everything. Again, the stickers in here are quite good, so it's not the worst when it comes to that. And that awesome color separation pretty much rolls all the way around to the back as well. As for the things that are actually stickers on this kit though, this right here is the sheet of stickers. This right here is the sheet of stickers when you're done. Now the bigger ones up here, that is 1 and 2. Those are the actual eyes. Now these are large stickers that go across a large section. If you actually use a toothpick or something to put these on, they won't look the worst, but they do catch the light a little bit more than, well, if there was no stickers. These green ones up here, that's 9, 10, and 11, well, that's on the cockpit as well as up on the clavicle. Those small clavicle ones are a bit of a pain to attach. 7 right here, these little green ones, these are non-shiny greens. These are, once again, on the cockpit. 5 right there, on the cockpit. 12 and 13, those ones are a little bit different. Those are on the heels, these little sections right here. And finally then, this one right here, number 14, that is on the beam rifle. When it comes to the detailing, when you do zoom in on the GFreD right here, it is off the charts ridiculously cool. The color separation is so smartly done, there's so many tiny little bits and pieces, and no matter where you look, there's always something really nice. Everything has layered up ever so awesomely, and it does differ ever so slightly physically to the actual GQuuuuuuX, which we'll talk about in a minute. But first, full spin. So there's the high-grade GFreD in that full 360-degree rotation, just in case there was something you wanted to know about it or wanted to see about it that I totally forgot to mention. Again, this is a very unique design. It has some really cool aspects to it all over the place. It is a variant of the GQuuuuuuX, but with a kind of, well, very different feel. Between the completely retooled head, unique new shoulders, and the overall very different color scheme, it does feel like a completely different beast. There are a few stickers all over the place which do work well, surprisingly enough, especially the decals included. I never got around to using the ones that I got with the GQuuuuuuX because I was holding out basically until the water slide decals come out, but the decals that come in here, those stretchy grippy type that do look good and don't really have too obvious a boundary, they also feel like they hold on and can be kind of touched when you're posing it around the place. So again, super impressed. But of course, the big question is, how much does it actually differ physically to the GQuuuuuuX? You can tell the colors are very different, but how about the actual physical differences between the Mecha because of the new runners included? So as for the full side-by-side comparison of the high-grade GQuuuuuuX that is on the left and the high-grade GFreD that is on the right, as you can see straight away when it comes to the overall model kit or the overall design, what hits you straight away is the colors. The colors are completely different. One is very Gundam coated, the one on the left. The one on the right has that little bit of Evangelion in it. We've got the Evangelion purple and green mixed in with all the other crazy, almost 80s tracksuit style colors. Besides that, the head is the other thing that completely differentiates the two, as well as a couple of minor other aspects. On zooming on into the head and the torso, as you can see, the torso is for the most part unchanged, beside a little bit of a change in kind of color separation style, as well as the color separation colors. Overall though, physically looking quite the same. Zooming on into the head then, you can see this is where they completely are differentiated. There's nothing common between the two at all. Again, the GQuuuuuuX is very Gundam-esque. We got that big, almost, well, more like a U-fin than a V-fin, regular Gundam eyes, and that little red Gundam beard. What we're seeing over on the GFreD is almost more wolf-like or fox-like, with big ears, almost a pointed nose, and there is a little bit of a V-fin in there as well, but it's recessed into the head towards the center, pointing towards the back. One place that really shows the kind of difference between the color separation is the legs. So Bandai didn't just print out the exact same runners in different colors. That's why we have a brand new runner in here as well, because the actual color separation style is much different. GQuuuuuuX predominantly white, this one a Technicolor, well, marvel. Lastly then are these shoulder units. These are very different between the two, both in build somewhat and definitely visually. Round, circular, fully white aspects on the GQuuuuuuX. Over on the GFreD, these are mainly in the purple of the actual body, and we've got something that looks almost like tiny GN drives at the tip. Finally now jumping onto a size comparison, and there it is once again beside the GQuuuuuuX on the right, but we also have the high-grade Revive Gundam on the left. So as you can see, about normal Gundam size. Rolling through some more high grades now, there's the high grade Ariel, Exia, D Gundam First, Gundam Mark II, Zeta, Barbatos, Gundam EX, and the high grade Gundam G Self. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's everything that comes with the high grade GFreD. What we're getting here is the beam sabers, the beam rifle, the shield. We've got some alternate parts being an alternate pair of hands. We've got 4 in total, an alternate head, which is always a pretty cool addition. And finally, we do have a little bit of a swappable part for the booster for the core fighter, and some little adapters. So when it does come to the hands in here, first off, these are exactly the same as what we would have seen with the GQuuuuuuX, this time in that nice cheddar orange. So we do have the widespread versions. Once again, not fully color accurate around the back, so you will have to add a little bit of that greeny blue, or should I say bluey green, and swapping them out is the usual routine. It's just a ball joint, you pull them off like so and attach on the other ones. The other variant we do have in here are these, which are just your standard holding hands in a non-standard color. Time to get this now on an action base, and the usual base adapter is here. It's just the standard 3mm hole down in the butt, which does of course mean it will work with any 3mm stand out there, whether by Bandai or by any other company. And in case you're curious about the one I'm using right here, these are the ones I usually use. They're nice, solid, and cheap. These are the Simple Stand Hex version by Good Smile Company. The first of the weapons we have in here are the melee weapons, which are the beam sabers. Now these, once again, same as what we would have seen with the GQuuuuuuX, but this time instead of being in green, they are in purple with a nice blue handle. Once again, a very nice pearlescent finish on these, and they don't look like anything else again, besides the GQuuuuuX. Attaching these into the hands is the usual kind of high-grade way, that is the sandwich method. The hand is the sandwich, you open up both slices of bread, pop on in the ham beam saber like this, and then close it all up. Then you just pop it on, again, ball joint attachment, and getting this into a pose is very, very, very nice. This and the GQuuuuuuX do pose up quite well. I do find the shoulders can be a little bit loose feeling. They're strong enough to hold the weapons, but can feel a little bit loose at times, but overall, everything works out very, very nicely, and it looks cool in a pose. When you're not using these particular beam sabers, you can just pop off the beam like so, take the handle, attach to the little pegs around on the butt flap like so, and they just attach on securely, and almost make up its rear skirting armor, just like this. Very nice. So next up in here is the beam rifle, and once again, just like with the GQuuuuuuX, this is ridiculously impressive. The only sticker here is the sight inside there, but besides that, this is all very nicely color separated. It's nice, thick, it's pretty cool, and there is the GQuuuuuuX's one just as a bit of a comparison. So the only difference is this one has white, this one has blue, and the shade of orange is a little bit richer on the GFreD. That's the only difference. So when it comes to attaching on the beam rifle, it's exactly the same as what we would have seen with the beam sabers. That sandwich up those hands just the same way, attach them on the same way, and this holds on absolutely perfectly. Like I mentioned, the arms can be a little bit on the weak side, but they can hold up the weapons without a single issue. There is what it looks like holding onto it, and this looks pretty damn awesome. When the beam rifle is not in use, we've got an adapter for using with it. You just slot the beam rifle into the adapter like so, holds on decently. Now I will mention it is a funny little adapter, same as the GQuuuuuuX, it pops into the base adapter hole in the bottom, so it's kind of sticking out of that, which is definitely unique. It holds on nicely enough, it can pivot side to side to keep it out of the way of poses, and when you are actually using this with an action base, you'll have to attach the action base into this, which then goes into the base adapter hole. That's what it looks like with the beam rifle stored away around back, and all in all, works out well. However, you may not like the base adapter style attachment of it though. Next up then in here, we've got the shield. So once again, exactly the same as what we would have seen with GQuuuuuuX itself, but this time in a completely different color. So nice molding around back. Again, this isn't a pure white, it's a kind of slightly purplified white, and we have an attachment point in grey. So when it comes to attaching on the shield, first off I will mention the attachment point is the wrist, and the wrist actually is separate to the arm, so it does rotate the full 360 degrees around, so it does mean when you do actually attach on the shield, you've got some articulation, which is very, very nice. It just slots on over that cuff like a cuff, and that right there is what it looks like attached. Holds on well, easy to pose, and there is the GFreD in a little bit of a pose. So next up then we've got this little piece right here, and this is for the cockpit section of the core fighter. In order to use this, you pop off the back pack of the GFreD like so, and this just attaches on simply, align it all up, and there you go. Overall, this does look pretty good, but it is this whole section including the backpack, which is the least color accurate aspect of the kit in general. If I actually whip out the instruction manual here, you can see what colors it's meant to be. The whole cockpit's meant to have some of that cyan on it. The piping is meant to have some purple, and even towards the ends of the thrusters, we're meant to see some purple on some of those actual little thrusters or sub-thrusters. So that does mean there is some painting required here if you want it to be fully color accurate. So next up we've got the ES bits which are on the head, the two ears right there which are Luna and Artemis apparently. These can be used as remote weapons, you just pop them off by sliding them off like so, that's one, and there is number two. So when it comes to setting these up, you just pop them off the top of the head just like so, these come off easily, and we have two little grey adapters in here for attaching them onto action bases. Once you have these on the little adapters, you can attach them onto the action base of your choice. The smaller the better definitely here, because as you can see I'm using two different types. One is the Witch from Mercury style tiny little accessory bases, and the other one is one that you'd see sometimes included with some Gundam model kits. So basically, when they're attached on, the stands are quite apparent compared to how small these actually are, but that is what they look like. Again, the smaller base the better, so the Witch from Mercury one's definitely recommended in this situation. Anyway, there it is in a little bit of a pose with both of those shooting off, and that's what they look like. So last up in here is this, the alternate head with the open, I guess, mouth, which is definitely given that kind of, I don't know, Evangelion or Ava eating a watermelon kind of look. In order to just swap the heads, it's a usual kind of ball joint. Actually, it's not usual. The ball joint is actually in the head going down into the neck as opposed to the other way around. Anyway, there's a little bit of a side-by-side comparison between the two. The build of both of these is quite similar. They both have eye stickers in a similar kind of way. It is really nice that the option was included inside the box and that it is a completely separate head, not one you need to build. Sometimes with alternate parts, you have to build one or the other. Inside this box, it's build both, so you have both available to use whenever you like, which is always nice. So finally now jumping on to the articulation, and just like we would have seen with the GQuuuuuuX, this is a very unique kit. Now I wouldn't say it's completely solid even though it is, which is a weird thing to say, but it's the joints on this are extremely, I can only describe as kind of silky smooth to the point where you might think they're actually loose, but they're not actually loose. They hold well, but they are very soft. As for my GQuuuuuuX right here, exactly the same kit, just a different color. This is a couple of months older and I have felt, well, this shoulder right here has loosened up a little bit now. Not enough to drop a weapon or anything like that, but it does feel a little bit looser. Besides that though, not too bad. It is plastic on plastic, so tightening up joints is pretty simple. Anyway, as for that regular pose, this right here is what we get in the end, which is quite nice, but as you can see, looks a little on the limited side. That is because this kit has some unique joints to get a bit of popping plastic there, and some parts do kind of clash off each other. Nothing about this is typical at all, for better and for worse at times. So it does do some great posing, but sometimes there's some poses it's just not necessarily going to pull off. Anyway, as for the full articulation on this, I'm not going to go through with it this time because it's exactly the same as the high-grade GQuuuuuuX. So if you want to know more about all the individual joints on the kit, go check out that review where I'll talk about it a little bit more in depth. But as it stands with this one, very nice articulation, limited in some ways, and definitely atypical. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and just like the high-grade GQuuuuuuX, the high-grade GFreD is almost Gundarium tier and the next evolution of high-grade gunpla. That does make it X gold tier and one unmissable high grade. When it comes to the breakdown, you can see it's only 3 points off of that Gundarium and only loses a couple here and there. When it comes to aesthetics, this is an absolutely beautiful kit. Just out of box, this does look incredible. The included stickers are definitely the minor issue as it is not fully color accurate, and it is not fully color accurate even when the stickers are attached on, as we are missing some color around back. But besides that, just as a straight build, the color separation is off the charts, and pretty much the missing colors are negligible. It's a masterpiece. So there's the breakdown of points, and as you can see, it's just 3 points off of that X Gundarium tier award. So for the vast majority of things, this is absolutely perfect. When it comes to the aesthetics, this is a masterpiece. Silhouette-wise, it's perfect. Design-wise, it is absolutely perfect, and it looks like the GFreD through and through. The only place it loses a point on is the fact that it is color inaccurate in some places, like around back, and it does rely on stickers for a lot of the certain details, some of which are a little bit more detrimental than the GQuuuuuuX, like these stickers on the eyes, definitely being very noticeable. However, the stickers in this box are a mix of foils and those nice rubbery grippy ones, so they do turn out quite well in the end. The decals adhere and look great. When it comes to articulation, this is absolutely perfect, even though I did mention that some aspects do clash here and there. That is just when I'm trying to get the pose I was trying to get out of it. Otherwise, this can get into some of the craziest possible poses. All of the joints are fluid and silky, and it just works out well. It is a joy to pose. If you like posing your kits, this one will definitely do what you want. I've included a whole bunch of crazy poses just so you can see what it can actually pull off. Everything feels great. When it comes to accessories, a good solid 4 out of 5 because these are incredible. Bandai has put so much detail into them. We got very nice beam sabers that look like nothing else, a greatly color separated beam rifle which looks incredible, and tons of little nice aspects, including those removable horns, a fully alternate head which is always great, and it is nice to get alternate hands included in the box as well. Great spread. Lastly then, when it does come to the build, this is an enjoyable build. This is like nothing else. If you haven't built this or the GQuuuuuuX, give them a go. It's not like building any other Gundam kits whatsoever. It's a completely new, different experience. It almost feels like a different line. The only point I took away there is it does feel a little bit loose in places like the shoulders, and I'm not sure how that will work out over time. The GQuuuuuuX has given me a couple of issues just with general kind of posing and leaving on the shelf. Nothing detrimental, nothing too bad, but it isn't as rock solid as it could be. And that comes to just how complex it is. Anyway, this is absolutely fantastic. Highly recommended from me. I got mine through Hobby Link Japan, link in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. It wouldn't be the end of the video without special thanks to each and every single one of you guys for watching my videos, and special thanks to the channel members and the members over on Patreon, including Caleb, Engelhardt, Joe, RG59061, Scotty Thomas, Simon, and Van Fawn.